This is Richard Cuselak. I'm here at AFCEA, San Diego West, and today we really have the great pleasure of having two executive vice presidents from Booz Allen Hamilton. And first we have Gregory Wenzel, who's executive vice president, and also Stephen Sulis. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're going to be asking some very important questions to each one. So this will be interactive. So, Greg, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Richard. Pleasure for having us. So I am Greg Wenzel. I am, as you said, Executive Vice President with the Strategic Innovation Group, and I lead our Digital Interactive Solutions Initiative.
Okay, excellent. And Stephen?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I'm currently the sub-account leader for the Navy Marine Corps C4ISR business area.
Okay.
So that spans all Navy Marine Corps C4ISR systems, and I lead a team of experts that prosecute that market, but work in partnership with the SIG, our Strategic Innovation Group, to bring cutting-edge, leading-edge C4ISR solutions to the Navy Marine Corps team.
As you know, the market is forecasting that system integration market will grow from 191.36 billion in 2013 to 331.76, maybe I should round that off, billion in 2018. So the question I have, it's kind of an open question. Why is the Department of Defense and government departments plagued with inefficiencies?
Well, I could probably start off, since I'm the analyst by trade and the operator. I would start to say that today's complex operations and irregular warfare, like the operations that we currently have with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, are demanding more and more real-time information in the right place at the right time to help our servicemen combat these threats. So when you measure the way we built our systems originally against the Cold War, against a known defined Soviet threat, and now try to apply those systems and weapons against this undefined threat and very demanding and irregular threat, it makes our systems look a little bit inefficient. However, with today's technology and good people like my friend here, chief engineer, that looks at these problems of better integration and interoperability of sensors to shooters to command and control, so that we can make the right decision at the right time to counter the threat, I think we're making great progress very rapidly to catch up.
Okay, excellent.
So just to add on that, the short version I would say is, Richard, we have industrial age acquisition for the information age, and the issue is that it worked great, as you said, Cold War, when you're buying ships, planes, tanks, and you need to buy copies of them. But when you're on the IT side, when things change every 3-6 months, new IT innovations, our acquisition processes are aligned to buy in stovepipes, because the program manager is all about the risk, cost, schedule, performance, and reduced risk. So they're not going to worry about relying on anybody to the left or the right of them. And so I think the issue is that now, after the wartime spending and we had the decrease in budget, we're effectively in an unsustainable enterprise, and we can't afford the way we've done it over the last couple decades, and we need to have a different way adjusting the acquisition into a more agile IT acquisition model.
Can you give some examples of U.S. military actively working with systems integrators as related to complex IT, defense military programs, just briefly?
Sure. There's a couple transformation, DoD transformational programs that are going on right now that we see. We're working in partnership with government to actually bring in the best of all the integrators. The Joint Information Environment, JIE, which is effectively a DoD-wide infrastructure. The intelligence community actually has this program called EyeSight, Intel Community, and I forget what it stands for, but they had an innovative approach where they actually would operate like an enterprise. They would agree that each one in the community would provide a piece of the enterprise and share it with the others. So they're actually starting to get really connected and making some of those resources available down into the defense agencies. Another one of those programs that we're actually helping on Booz Allen is working with Amazon is around C2S, commercial cloud services. Took a Amazon environment and actually created a secure environment for the for the Intel community, and making that available to all of Intel community to be able to do their Amazon type with the security they require. So those are a couple.
Yeah, that's a great application.
And specifically Navy Marine Corps, they are working very hard to establish a new environment by consolidating their networks into a program called CANES. Yesterday, Admiral Becker at the conference here talked about a satellite called MU0 to provide communications and bandwidth that will support the warfighter in moving away from point-to-point radios and point-to-point data links into tactical clouds, and being able to use the cloud like we do today in a commercial environment, in a tactical environment. And MU0, the successful launch of that satellite for right here in San Diego, the SPAWAR PEO C4I, Admiral Becker, has now consolidated waveforms and allows the Army, Navy, and Air Force to talk to each other with common radios where we never had that before. So there's some great movement in the area of integration and interoperability, of course, across not just joint forces, but also coalition forces.
Yeah. What awards for complex IT programs have been made in 2014 or are expected in 2015? And can you give some brief examples?
Sure. Brief examples are some I already mentioned. So MU0 and CANES have been underway and developing. Those are major programs. Major programs around the corner include Maritime Tactical Command and Control, MTC2. And in addition to that, there's some activity specifically cited by the CNO around integration and interoperability in all three Navy Marine Corps systems commands, including NAVAIR, NAVSEA, and SPAWAR.
How has the enterprise integrator unified this IT systems, which are in various areas for the Navy Marine Corps C4 ISR business, grown in the last 3 years? How has that happened?
So what we're seeing is actually where the Navy is doing a transformation into this enterprise approach. As Steve had mentioned, the CANES, Consolidated Afloat Networks, step one, get your networks integrated rather than the individual stovepipes. Then they're looking at a thing called agile core services, where they would actually have a common set of services. And then each one of the programs that are doing the command and control and ISR are signing up that they are going to plug in and reuse those set of core services, so they don't actually have to duplicate and repeat that themselves. So that's going back to one of the very first questions you asked, what I call the unsustainable enterprise, where each program manager develops their own vertical stack from the servers all the way up to how it interacts with the user. The data centers, the cloud, those are all common. So if you can get it into one thing, that's where CANES comes in, Agile Core Services. And so then the D6 Navy program, all they have to do is focus on their mission program, and they can reuse those things. I think that's awesome where the Navy is moving.
Can you give examples on which your firm, Booz Allen Hamilton, has been a key enterprise integrator for the Navy Marine Corps C4 ISR business?
Yeah, that's a great question for us. As a firm, as I mentioned to you, I think a little bit earlier, we were focused on taking the best of what we've been delivering in C4 ISR services across Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps by forming an integrated team. We call it the C4 ISR cross-cut team. And our team is able to take solutions from one area of the market and transform them to the other. Enterprise integration is one example of that solution base. It started in the Strategic Innovation Group under Greg Wenzel's leadership. We've taken that into the Navy as well as the Air Force and the Army. in the Navy, we are getting great traction because the CNO has established as one of his top priorities integration and interoperability in C4ISR systems. So I mentioned NAVAIR, NAVSEA, and SPAWAR all have programs and all organizations underway to create integration and interoperability. Enterprise Integrator is now providing consulting services to SPAWAR 5.0, which is their engineering shop, in the IT tech authority shop.
Okay.
We are also starting to work with the Integrated Warfighting Capability Shop at NAVAIR and also a similar organization at NAVSEA.
Can you give us an idea of the sustaining and creating capabilities in the next 5 years for the Naval C4 ISR?
Actually, what you're starting to hear is a repeat pattern and theme where across the Department of Defense and specifically in the Navy, we're starting with the CNO and the I&I that Steve had mentioned, integration interoperability. It then translates into NAVSEA, NAVAIR, and SPAWAR. And what I was describing was some of the programs that SPAWAR with the canes, providing a set of the agile core services, common services. This is actually going to take several years to do the transformation, but it's actually on the right path.
What objectives in 2015 do you see for the U.S. Navy and the warfighter?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as I mentioned earlier, in CNO's overall strategic objectives, C4ISR is one of his top priority, and if not higher or equal, cyber protection of that. So in the area of C4ISR, what you'll see going into 2015 and 2016 is this continuation of consolidation, integration, and to be able to let the ships, aircraft, and submarines be a force multiplier, have more power with less numbers by using C4ISR. The budget is restraining us from buying platforms, but the payoff is if we could plus up C4ISR investments, which that's what you pointed out right off the beginning.
Sure.
Over the FIDEP, the next 5 years or so, you see about a point and a half, depending on how you add up C4ISR, you see an actual increase. So it's a choice. Do I buy big platforms, or do I buy C4ISR that makes my existing platforms more effective and efficient? And so that's what you're going to see as the top priority. The top priority that we have is to not only integrate those to make them more efficient and effective in the battlefield, but it also helps in the cyber world. It allows you to protect more single points more in detail than if you have multiple stovepipe systems. So those are the two primary objectives, I would say, are C4ISR integration and interoperability and advanced IT leading edge stuff in the battlefield, and cyber protection for all of them.
Can you give some recent examples where the integrated warfighter and business infrastructure capabilities have emerged? This is a very important point, as you know, and you brought up the budget issue and so forth.
Yep.
So the first example that comes off the top of my head is the one that I mentioned earlier, C2S, the commercial cloud services. So taking a commercial Amazon similar infrastructure, the approach that they have, making a copy of that where it's a secure facility, all the appropriate securities and protections that the intel community requires, but it's a copy, and now that's made available for all the intel community down to the warfighters. That's actually where we see one of the significant intersections between the business using commercial best solutions, getting benefit to the warfighter. And Booz Allen, we're working in partnership with Amazon to make that happen.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think you point out the importance of the total, operating cost and how you actually are looking to bring the cost down. This has been the theme, as you know, of the Defense Department, also Congress. So it's really exciting to know your company is really in tune to what the needs of not only the executive branch in the United States, but also the legislative. How is Naval IT C4ISR space systems and enterprise support advancing these naval and joint warfighter objectives?
Well, we actually just saw where Admiral Becker and General Hughes, General Hughes being the Army PEO C3T, in concert with the Navy, as Steve mentioned earlier, the MU0 Satellite, MU0s.
Yeah.
We think that is an awesome advancement innovation. So the space community launches this capability that creates the ubiquitous bandwidth anywhere it can in the world, so we don't have to have the point-to-point communications.
Right.
And it immediately benefits the warfighter, sailors, soldiers, anywhere in the globe.
Yeah,
Okay.
and as Greg said, once you get the satellite up there with the bandwidth, once you get the networks consolidated, now you could start to apply different applications in different ways to do different things against this very complex mission in irregular warfare and you know, basically terrorist threats. So the way this starts to unfold is we start replacing things like GCCS with MTC2, which brings in a whole new set of applications and real information in real time to the warfighters. The general and the admiral were talking about allowing possibly battlefield commanders and soldiers to be texting each other in a safe environment on the battlefield, and that's very timely information without having to use radios that can be intercepted or perhaps infiltrated. So there's examples of how the specific objectives are leading to funding, which are leading to programs which are leading to better warfighting capabilities. The general and the admiral also, this is very timely, as well as Admiral Dunaway from the IWC in a Naval Proceedings article, talks about the power of integrated information across the battlefield.
Ready. Greg and Stephen, I really appreciate the time you took. I'm wondering if you could kind of do a wrap-up. I'm very curious about some of the big initiatives that Booz Allen is working on. So let's start with Greg first.
Well, so as we were going through and describing some of the examples of warfighter solutions, let me put it in a larger context. The other weekend, I was able to actually spend a day with my wife on the town, courtesy of the digital ecosystem. We were able to make dinner reservations with OpenTable. We're able to find some entertaining things using Around Me, and then we'll call, go see a show, take Uber, get Uber to take us home, and we're done.
Right.
In the federal space, you don't have the ecosystem there. And what we were describing was where we're seeing, and Booz Allen is actually working in partnership with the government to actually start to do some of these transformations. So within the Booz Allen Strategic Innovation Group, we have the digital initiative, which creates the ecosystem. And some of the solutions and services, the cloud, social mobile analytics. We have a next-gen analytics, which really focuses on the hard, get the data. Once we get the data, we can do some really advanced, interesting analytics. And then we have a predictive intel group that actually is protecting it, around the cyber threat. So those are the main SIG initiatives and activities to create this digital ecosystem for our federal and commercial clients.
Yeah, and Stephen, perhaps you can add to that.
Yeah, I'd love to, because as a former operator of C4ISR systems in combat, what Greg has described of what he's doing on cutting-edge solutions in the area of enterprise integration and digital services is what the warfighter needs today to combat the complex threats that we are facing in irregular warfare and terrorism. And what we're doing, in a sense, is we're building the digital warrior. We're allowing the warrior to get real-time information at the right time, at the right place, by leveraging all of this capability. And Booz Allen is at the forefront of that because we are on the side of the government. We are working with the government to consulting services in engineering, science, technology, and analytics to help build the digital warrior of the future to protect Americans.
Yeah, and I have to really add, your company is one of the 25 top defense working with the government, so I'm glad you brought that up. Well, I want to thank both of you very much. It's been, again, a pleasure, and I hope I get a chance to talk to you again. So again, thank you and appreciate it.